Harmonizers, welcome to this video where I'm going to give you the judge's perspective with some tips and tricks as we take a look at the Ranch Trail class that's at the Florida Thoroughbred Transformation Expo. There's a lot of things that we can learn and see as we take a look at different competitors and their riding styles. Lots of people have different strengths and challenges, and what I love about what you're going to see in this video is you're going to see some professional riders on some really seasoned horses, like the one you're watching right now is somebody who's had their horse for quite a long time and is definitely an experienced trainer, versus you're going to see a junior rider who I don't even think is 10 years old, also doing a really good job. And I'll point out a few different things of the things that get you extra marks and the things that you want to be mindful of. And the rider that you're watching go first right now is actually the one that won the whole division. And we're going to take a look at a few of their key pieces. And with the working ranch trail, there's the trail pattern, which is mostly obstacles with some trot canter components to it. And then there's this, which is the pattern. And the pattern tells you where to do different maneuvers. So for example, there's a walk transition here before you turn the corner. And then after you turn the corner is a canter transition where your horse is to pick up that left lead. And you can see there they go from walk to canter. And definitely if you're preparing to show, but even just for helping your horse get better balanced and more athleticism, it's really good to work on transitions and getting those transitions from the walk, the trot, the canter, just having some variety in there. And then there was the transition to the fast trot or the working trot, extended trot, lots of different names there, but a faster trot, and then going into the trot or jog. So you can definitely see there was a speed change, and that's an important feature when you're doing one of these classes where they ask for different types of trot or extended canter versus canter. They want to see a change in speed of what you're doing. So this here is a look at a different rider and showing you a little bit of the side pass. And so what they did a really good job there was getting to the middle of the poles for the side pass and then walking over the poles. And then it also kind of shows you that sometimes you're going to get asked to do something like a side pass and there's a bit of a pause and walk through. And it does matter if your horse ticks the poles or not, meaning that they hit them. And that can just take a little bit of practice of doing something with a pole like the side pass, stopping and then walking off. You don't always get the opportunity to just walk smoothly over the poles with no interruptions. And your horse just needs to be coordinated with their feet to not hit the poles. So it's an important one to practice with your horse doing different things. Now you can see she does the haunch turns in each direction. The horse had a moment where they pawed there, which is just a little bit of, could be impatience, frustration, all sorts of stuff could be going on. And then they actually do a really nice job going up into the canter transition, which is supposed to be into a canter and then there's an extended canter and then a regular canter. And so it is important to have a change in speed to be able to see a difference. And then here you have the option to do a simple change or a flying change. And this horse almost does a clean flying change. And it's important to note that if your horse does a clean flying change, meaning they switch both their front and their back legs, it is going to score better than a horse that does a simple change where they go from a canter to a trot or walk to be able to make the transition to get the lead change. Because right now you see the left legs are leading, so that's a left lead, versus when they were going the other way, it's the right lead that they were doing. So it can be a little bit of a risk depending on how clean your horse is with the changes. So it's one of those things where if you can do it, great, you're going to get the extra marks, but otherwise you could play it safe and do the simple change and then you know you're going to get it. And then they do the halt and the back up there. So it was kind of interesting to see that flying lead change. So now we're going to take a look at a different rider. So here you can see a really good speed change. Like this is a trot here, and then they're going to come into the halt and do their pivot turns. And so what I like about what they did there is it was a very clean trot to halt. There wasn't walking in between. And then here's a look at their haunch turns. The haunch turn to the left was a little bit more steady in the hind end, a bit more of a pivot. and then to the other way was a little bit tricky. And you can see there was a moment where the horse thought about getting that left lead canter, but the rider was pretty quick to fix that and get that right lead canter. So you can see the right legs are leading, like they're landing first, they're extending a little further, and then they're going to come into their transition here. So they opted for the simple lead change, which they did cleanly. So even though doing a flying lead change is a higher degree of difficulty because the other horse did what's called cross-firing in the hind end, where they didn't swap the back legs, they only swapped the front end, this simple change would actually score higher than the flying change where there was that little bit of error. They do the walk transition, and then they get the canter transition going there, which was pretty smooth, a little bit choppy, but overall well done that they got the left lead canter and coming in, and then it's a transition down, and then this is to be the extended trot or a fast trot, depending on what you want to call it, to help you figure it out for what you're supposed to do. And then there's to be a speed change where you go into a trot, which you can see there they even went from posting to sitting, and then the halt transition, and then a back up. And for the back up, what the judge is looking for is that the horse goes straight. I like how the horse rounds their top line a little bit there, which means they're using their back a little bit better to do the back up. If the horse backs up with their head up in the air, then usually they're not using their body as well, and it's not as good for their top line and their balance, agility, things like that. And then this rider here, interesting to take a look at because they're riding English. And that's one of the really fun things about the Thoroughbred Transformation Expo is they want to welcome and encourage a lot of people to try different things. So even if you're typically an English rider and your horse does eventing or dressage or who knows what they do, you can still come and try working ranch in your English tack. So you can still change for that. So you don't have to be a full-out Western rider. Of course, the ones that ride Western and work in the working ranch tend to place better because their horses are more practiced on those skills, but it's a lot of fun to try something new and discover what your horse wants to do. So super kudos to this pair trying the working ranch in English tack. And they do a pretty good job here. In the haunch turn, what a judge is looking for is the inside hind leg to pivot. And so the more your horse tends to fiddle around with their feet, you're not going to get as good of a score as if they can do a nice pivot where their one foot is planted and then the other ones walk around. They did do a pretty good transition from their walk canter transition, picking that up. And you can see that this horse tends to ride more English because their frame, their headset is a little bit higher than what you would see with the others. And then the horse does a little bit of struggling to get that left lead, just a little bit of confusion there. So it's a little bit late. And then here's supposed to be the walk transition before you turn the corner. So it's pretty good, just a slight bit late. But what I like what they did is that when they struggled to get the left lead canter, they knew that they could, and they followed through with getting that left lead canter. Because if you don't get the correct lead, then that's not going to score as well as if you can at least show some of those strides on the correct lead. So here coming in and doing the trot, which ended up being just a smidgy bit late, and you can see the horse wasn't really sure, are we doing another lead change? What's going on here? Because they thought about picking up the canter again. And then here's to slow down into a slower trot and come into the halt and the back up. So overall, like there's a little bit of moments where the horse is like, okay, is this what we're supposed to do now? Like even with the head bobbing there in the back up is just a little bit of this probably isn't something that maybe they practice very much, or maybe, there could be other factors going on as well. So it's important to practice so that way your horse knows a little bit of what's coming and can help them be a little bit softer into what they're doing as well. Now this rider, I'm super excited for you guys to see because this is the junior rider who I think she's 9 years old. I don't think she's quite 10 yet, which is super impressive that she's riding a thoroughbred. And if I remember correctly, this horse raced the previous year. Like they were part of the makeover, the Thoroughbred Makeover Kentucky competition that was in October, which was only 2 months prior to this competition. So this horse was racing relatively recently, like within the last year, I believe, and now doing side pass, trotting, junior rider, and you're going to see canter and all sorts of stuff going on. And I'm like, isn't that adorable that the fault there where you'd lose a mark is that the horse broke to walk for a stride. So you're supposed to go from fast trot to slower trot or extended trot to trot. And they slowed down a little bit too much and got the walk. But I love seeing that. I'd rather see that than the horse not be able to slow down. So this horse just looks like it's got such a great calm demeanor and a nice safe safe horse to ride, that a junior is able to take it in this competition, being a young, relatively recently raced thoroughbred. Such a great horse to be kind of showing off what a thoroughbred can do. And there you can see they get the right lead canter. Yeah, there was some trot before they picked up their canter, and then here you can see they lost a little bit of momentum, so broke stride into that trot again. So definitely some little pieces that they can work on to spruce things up a little bit. And it's a little bit tricky because sometimes you don't always know what your horse needs to practice before you go into the arena. It's a fine balance of practice enough that your horse understands what it is that you're going to be doing, and yet don't practice too much that your horse is maybe too tired, lost their steam already, and is a little too chill coming into the arena. So that's probably the biggest one for this little rider team to work on. And same with getting those crisp transitions. So with like the more experienced adult riders, you saw them get walk canter transitions, whereas there was a little bit of trot in there. So that's going to hurt the score a little bit. But overall, super excellent round to be proud of. And this competition features both juniors, amateurs, professionals. So pretty cool to see all of that. And they did end up getting some ribbons, which is super awesome. And then here's your winner. So let me know who was your favorite to watch and what was one of the tips that you were able to pick up and think about.
Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.